Glenn Jones. This is a bit of an experiment. Friends of mine have been telling me that with the dearth of gigs, you should look to house concerts. That's a semi-viable way of doing shows and making a little bit of income. So I'm trying it. I'll try anything once, you know. Most of the songs I'm playing tonight are from my most recent album, which is called Vade Mecum. The last piece I did was called Black and White and Gray, which is dedicated to my two cats, Django and Hopscotch. One thing I've noticed is that if you dedicate songs to cats, the audience really likes it. So all these songs are dedicated to various cats. There's an expression called generating more heat than light, which is considered to be sort of an insult. You know, you're supposed to generate more light than heat, but feel free to generate more heat tonight if you don't mind. This is called Kathy Maltese. Thank you. This may very well go out of tune as I'm playing it, but you'll understand. This piece is called Across the Tappan Zee, which is something you can't do anymore. This is from my album called My Garden State. And most of the pieces on that album were written while I was looking after my mom in the latter stages of Alzheimer's in northern New Jersey, where we grew up. And this starts the album off Across the Tappan Zee. When I would drive down to New Jersey, I would cross the Tappan Zee Bridge, and that felt like I was almost home, you know, so that started to be. I didn't know when I wrote the song that it was going to have such a short shelf life. The Tappan Zee is now the meeeeow Bridge. So, yeah, because, you know, the Cuomo name carries so much cachet. So, anyway, it's a glance into the past, I suppose. Anyway, this is Across the Tappan Zee. This will be my last number. In 1971, I started college in Richmond, Virginia. I was a painting and printmaking major. Who for Richmond, Virginia? For 1971, maybe. I'd like to say that I arrived in Richmond, Virginia the same year as Jack Rose. I started college that year, and he was born there the same year. Um, let's see. At the time that I started going to college, it was also the time that I started getting very, very interested in the kind of music that we've been hearing playing between sets tonight. Old-timey country, Delta blues, Piedmont blues, gospel music, that kind of stuff. And that period I thought was kind of not a great time for rock and roll, and I'd kind of gone through that period in the late 60s. It seemed like the 70s were the years of the singer-songwriter, and I don't have much tolerance for that. But anyway, it was a great time to start listening to other kinds of music, and I discovered County Records and Yazoo Records and Irwin, and I don't know, there were just a number of great labels reissuing this old music. And I had this idea that this, not an idea so much as a sense that this was music from another time and another place, which it was, but part of its romantic appeal, I think, was that it felt ancient and far away and like something you couldn't really hold on to anymore except in the grooves of these old records, you know. A couple of my friends at college took me aside and said, you know, if you're into this music, there's this guy named John Jackson who lives in Fairfax, Virginia, who plays this stuff. And my initial reaction was skepticism. I was like, well, nobody plays this stuff anymore. They're all dead. 1971 is probably closer to, not probably, no two ways about it, it's closer to when those guys recorded than we are now by a long stretch. But they took me with them on one of our college breaks to meet John Jackson in Fairfax, Virginia. And John would host these, these evenings at he and his wife's Cora's house. And John would just play old country blues and country and western songs. I mean, he played anything. He played early Elvis Presley and Carl Perkins songs. You know, if it was a piece of music he liked, he didn't discriminate. He'd play Carter Family and Jimmy Rogers songs, as well as Blind Boy Fuller songs and Blind Willie McTell. And it made me realize that this music was not something from the dead past, but was something that had currency and life then and there. And I ended up spending a lot of time with John. I went metal detecting with him a couple times. He put on his lucky hat and his metal detector earphones, and we'd go out to some housing development. I mean, just places where they were digging up earth to build this god-awful suburban housing development. And John would, with his metal detector, be pulling up Civil War coins and buttons and belt buckles and stuff like that. I mean, they were everywhere in the ground. And John John believed that whatever he took out of the ground didn't really belong to him. So even if we found like a quarter or a nickel or something like that, he would put in his little display box at his house where he would turn on the lights and you could look at Civil War stuff, but also, you know, 1965 quarter as well. Years later, when I moved to Boston, I was working for a record label, and I knew that John, who had recorded 3 albums for the Arhoolie record, had tons more material than were on those records, and so I ended up producing a couple records by John. The first one was called Step It Up and Go. And anyway, that brings me to this, I guess. I had wanted to kind of dedicate a song to John for a long time. So anyway, this is it. It's called John Jackson of Fairfax, Virginia. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I was not sure how this would work out, but it's actually quite a nice evening. I want to thank Liam and Everett for inviting me to play, and thank you all for listening. I think we all have stuff for sale, so avail yourself of the stuff at the merch table if you have a mind to. Anyway, thanks for listening, and see you soon.